top focus right now. Former Indian Air Force Chief Air Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria joined the Bharatiya Janata Party on the 24th of March at the party headquarters in the national capital. Mr. Bhadoria hails from Uttar Pradesh. After joining the party, the former Chief of Air Staff R.K.S. Bhadoria said that the thought of serving the nation is key. He has served for more than 4 decades in the IAF, but the best time of his service was the last 8 years under the leadership of the BJP government. BJP General Secretary Binod Tore lauded Bhadoria's long service in the Indian Air Force and expressed confidence that he will now contribute actively in the political field after playing an active role in the defence forces. While this is not the first time that an army veteran has entered politics, the former Air Force Chief's entry into the BJP has opened up many interesting conversations and questions. People are now asking whether military veterans entering politics is a good trend or not. What are the possible pros and cons? There are no better people to answer this than our military veterans itself. I have with me Wing Commander Sudhakaran. I also have with me Major General P.K. Sehgal. And Major General Dhruv Katoch will also be joining us in just a short while from now. And I also have with me Major Muhammad Ali Shah, defence expert, also with us to take this conversation forward. Let me begin with Major General P.K. Sehgal. Sir, I want to understand your perspective on whether military veterans, army veterans in India joining politics is in fact a good trend or not. What are the possible pros and cons, if any?
Army officer, as much a citizen of India as anybody else. Post-retirement, he has the freedom to opt for whatever career he wishes to. And I personally feel that our bureaucracy as well as the politicians lack expertise and awareness on defence matters. If you notice, right from the time that India has become independent, till date there has not been a single defence white paper. Secondly, every year the government of India is supposed to enunciate the threat to the nation. And based on the threat, you do the acquisition policies, your force restructuring, as well as your long-term and mid-term acquisitions and restructuring, etc. Every year, I was myself in the Perspective Planning Directorate. We used to give it to the defence, to the MOD. All that the MOD used to do was change the letterhead and put their own signature and return it back to us. It was an Army view, Air Force view, and Naval view, not the Indian view. And today, defence is very closely integrated with economics as well as external affairs. And it's absolutely essential that the expertise and awareness that the defence officer has must be made use of in a very appropriate manner by the government of the day. They can give expertise to the government in various areas and ensure that the policies that the government is undertaking or making do take into consideration the expertise and awareness that they have. If you remember, Jaswant Singh served as a defence minister.
Yes.
And he did a superb job. He did a superb job when we after the Pokhran thing. There would have been lots of problems for India, but for his expertise, his awareness, and his eloquence, and his knowledge and command over the English language, he was able to take India out of the, I'll say, troubled waters. And I personally feel that even if you notice till date, we don't have a, I'll say, a defense policy. We don't have a national security policy. We don't even have a coherent China policy, or for that matter, even a coherent Kashmir policy. All these things would be taken care of once the expertise of the service officers is made use of. There's no harm done whatsoever if they join any of the parties. If you recall, even General Huda had joined the Congress as their advisor, and he was the one who was also involved in the surgical strike that was carried out after Uri.
Yes.
And there is personally, I feel that it will be a great service to the nation. Today, the bureaucracy doesn't even understand ABC of defense. And that is the reason there is a huge amount of lack of trust between the defense services and the bureaucracy. All that will cease to exist.
Okay, I'll come at you in just a moment, sir. Major Dhruv Katoch also with us on the broadcast. Major Dhruv Katoch, similar question to you. We were just discussing how it could perhaps benefit certain industries, certain sectors in certain areas, the entry of veterans into politics. Do you also feel that having a veteran as a politician, as finally a policy maker, has a much bigger impact compared to them coming into ministries and presenting plans to ministers who then have the job of also implementing them?
Thank you. No, I very frankly am firmly of the opinion that veterans, should they wish to, must enter politics. This is one phase, this is one point in their life where they can actually see decisions being implemented at the national level in whatever they do. The point is they've got a very vast degree of experience. It isn't that just because he's from the defense services, he should form part of the Ministry of Defense.
Yes.
He can form part of any ministry. And I think the inputs which a veteran will give to that particular ministry, especially at the, at the political level, I think that is something which needs to be considered. And it is tremendous. Let us also look at the example of democracies like the United States. We've had presidents of the United States who have been former veterans of the US Armed Forces. The same can be said of many other democracies. So in India, actually, the history has been a bit convoluted. When we go back, at the time of independence, there was a huge distrust between the political class and of the military. When you see what was happening around the Asian subcontinent, and so many militaries were undergoing coups, etc., that mistrust could be understood. But you see, people have seen the functioning of the armed forces for the last 75 plus years. And the one force which is totally apolitical is the armed forces. Now, post-retirement, if a person enters politics, I think he will bring to it great value, or she will bring to it great value. And the nation will be benefited by it. The political party which they represent, I think, will also be benefited by it. So I'm a very strong votary of veterans joining the joining various political parties and contributing in the national effort in that direction.
Okay, all right. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, bringing you to the conversation, sir. I just want to understand from you, on the flip side as well, there are certain people who feel that this then blurs the line between politics and the armed forces. And as Major Dhruv Katoch also pointed out, that the armed forces have always been apolitical. Do you feel that that argument holds true somewhere, or there is perhaps some blurring of the lines which ought to be avoided?
While you can say that the armed forces are apolitical, you also have to understand each and every one of us, in our own right, reserve our right to choose our political ideologies, and we do have a choice. That's why you have armed forces ballots in the first place. So, like if bureaucrats can join, if judges can join, if Bollywood actors can join, if comedians can join, the people who are most suited for politics, who understand politics, diplomacy, all these things put together with the level of moral courage that is required, it is the people from my fraternity, and that is the armed forces. Talking to you about Air Chief Marshal R.K. Bhadoria, I know him personally. He was my vice chief, and then he went on to become the chief. In fact, when I sought my premature separation, it was under him that I actually left the service. So I know him personally. In fact, yesterday I had the opportunity to congratulate him for having taken this wise decision. We want more of these people in politics rather than thugs who come and masquerade as politicians and then brazen it out today, so much so that they rule from jail. What is the difference from a dacoit who could self-certify himself to say, I stole because of the circumstances that the society put me in, and therefore you cannot bring me under the rule of law. How can these become lawmakers? This is a question that I ask this countrymen. Have we become so devoid that we cannot find few men of spine who can stand their word and who can rule this country and give it a leadership? We don't have people like this. And even if some choose to do that, we abuse them day in and day out without even understanding what we are abusing that for. That is what the politics of this country has got reduced to. And my heart burns, it boils, my blood boils when I see politicians of this level to whom I'm compelled to vote for. At least I have a choice today. And I would want more of these choices when people come down And why does it become a problem when you have good men joining politics who have served their lives? They have put 37 to 40 years in the service of the nation, and we've not just put our service, we take oath to lay down our lives. Tell me one profession that does that. And if he has done that for 40 long years, he's well within his rights to actually tell people what way to follow, to show the country the right path. That is the only way that India can grow. If we are going to even discuss on this subject, I think there is something seriously wrong with the society that we live in today, because we don't want able leadership. We don't want leadership which actually, can show some path, some destination. If you aspire to be a superpower which needs
Yes.
to rule the world, please understand, we
Okay.
need men of moral courage, of integrity, of honesty. You will find it nowhere other than the armed forces, mate.
Okay, all right. Major Mohammad Arisha, bring you into the conversation and taking that note forward. When we actually talk about the characteristics and traits that one wants in their politicians, in their political leaders, ironically, all those traits are present in people of the armed forces. So really, what is your take in terms of, someone who's served and taken an oath to give their life for the nation? This is a person who has immense courage, as everybody else has pointed out. This is a person who's not corruptible, precisely all the traits that we want. So in terms of all the pros that we're looking at, if you could also perhaps shed your perspective on the same. Why does it make sense, in fact, to have people of the armed forces, if they choose to after retirement, go ahead and join politics? And we've seen a great example in General V.K. Singh, as Major Dhruv Katoch was also pointing out. It's not necessary that one has to go into the Ministry of Defence or even the Foreign Affairs Ministry. We've had General V.K. Singh in the Transport Ministry, and we've seen the work that has been done in that department.
Absolutely, Devika. Firstly, I must compliment you for asking me such a very intelligent question. Now, yes, as citizens of a country, when we say certain traits which we want our leaders, our politicians to have, integrity, honesty, discipline, punctuality, working hard, work ethics, all those are there as it is present in the armed forces personnel. These traits are instilled in us. Our training is such. Now, I strongly believe that the society will not change unless and until we change our own selves. And most certainly so when we are serving, when we are in uniform, when we are serving personnel of the army, before we are commissioned as officers, in the training we is taught to us, refrain from two discussions, always. One is on politics, other is on religion. Just keep that away from the ICLT class, integrated character and leadership traits. In our academy itself, it's taught. That's why we are serving. It's the most apolitical organization in the world, very secular, and we have a very, very professional army. But that is, again, I would say it's limited to while you are in service. When you are serving, I think the character of our army is, when I say army, I mean the armed forces, is that we are totally apolitical. For 5 years today, this government is going to be there. Tomorrow, some other government will come. So today, the government, the forces will take orders from the ruling government, irrespective whether it's BJP, Congress, whatever government it is of the day. Now, when you retire, when you hang up your boots, when you hang up your uniform, there is a certain stipulated cooling off period. Because when you have just hung up your boots, you are privy to a lot of confidential material, a lot of secrets, a lot of internal matters. Once that cooling off period is over, you are at liberty to do, you are a citizen, as General Sehgal rightly said earlier, you are a citizen of the country as well. Even armed forces personnel are citizens of the country. We've had people in politics, oh my God, we've had people who were former dacoits, we've had people who were former actors, we've had people who were from all diverse backgrounds. Why not have someone for leadership that we want? Our country, I believe, is a great country, but we need a solid dose of discipline. We actually need that. And as one of the panelists rightly said, we've had head of states in the US who have been who have been senior ranking officers of the armed forces. We have Captain Brijesh, one of my colleagues. He is contesting election from Bangalore. We have Air Chief Marshal Baduria. Incidentally, just a few days back, General Sehgal also was there. We had the honor of being together at a conclave recently, and I met General Baduria. I've been in touch with him, and I did not know that this news was coming up. And immediately, I think just a couple of days later, this news came up, and I straight away sent him a text. I said, "Sir, congratulations." So, the one question people ask me, is it that the armed forces is getting politicized by this? I say no, it is not. Because as I mentioned earlier, when you are in uniform, you are supposed to be totally apolitical. When you have hung up your uniform and you have finished your cooling off period, then you are at liberty, and people have a wrong notion. If Fauji hai, that you are a forces person, so you would be good in security. But
right.
No, I think we have proved it everywhere, Devika. I will just quickly conclude by saying we have proved it in the field of entertainment, in politics, in management, in everywhere. In anchoring, we've had the best of people. So the armed forces personnel are equally at right to join any party after they retire, after the cooling off period is over. It's a personal choice, it's their choice, and it is the party's choice. And if you permit me a last quick minute, in the year 2019, we saw 7 military veterans join the BJP.
Yes, joining the BJP, yes.
Yes, we saw Lieutenant General S.K. Patel, who was the Deputy Chief of the Army Staff. We saw ex-DG Military Intelligence, Lieutenant General J.B.S. Yadav, who was the former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff. We saw Lieutenant General R.N. Singh, who was the former Director General of Military Intelligence.
Yes.
We saw Lieutenant General Smith Kumar, former DG Information Services and IT. We saw Lieutenant General Nitin Kohli, who was former DG Management Planning Personal Services. We saw Colonel R.K. Tripathi, former Deputy Judge Advocate General, that's the JAG branch.
Absolutely, and of course the list does go on. As others were also pointing out, we've had Jaswant Singh, we've had General V.K. Singh, we now have the former Air Chief R.K.S. Baduria also joining the BJP. So it's a very long list as well. So this is not, of course, a new trend that is taking place. But Major General P.K. Sehgal, bringing you back into the conversation, so I just want to understand from you. Talking about traits that we genuinely wish to see in our leaders, you want 2 things in life. You want honesty, you want hard work, and perhaps the third would be discipline. These are all traits that one does find in people of the armed forces. So why do you think that a conversation is being had on whether this does politicize the army in any way?
It's very unfortunate that the armed forces officers always and every time lead from the front and lead with personal example. They have honesty, they have character, they have integrity, they have compassion, they have sensitivity, and they have demonstrated leadership capabilities. They have discipline and they understand the responsibility. We have a most enviable motto of ours. We say, honor, safety and welfare of the country comes first always and every time. Whereas the civilians say self-aggrandizement comes first and foremost. Then we always say that the safety and welfare of the men under your command comes next always and every time. Your own personal interest, etc., in safety comes last always and every time. And this is something which will go a long way in strengthening this nation. Unfortunately, if you see every year the defense budget is presented, is treated as a holy cow. There is no expertise available. The defense budget is not even discussed for 10 minutes. What a shame. A nation who wants to be a power to reckon with and wants to be one of the most influential nations, emerging nations, doesn't even discuss the defense budget for 10 minutes because there is no expertise and there is no awareness at all. So once the defense officers are inducted in a big way, if you recall or remember, there are 35 presidents of America who are from the defense services. Some of the most brilliant prime ministers of Britain were from the defense services. Some of the most brilliant generals, presidents of France were from the General de Gaulle, etc., were from the defense services. Even today, they have a defense committee where almost about 25 to 30 members are directly or indirectly from the defense services. It's high time that India inducts as many officers as possible to ensure that we have a level-headed and an appropriate discussion within the parliament so that decisions that are taken can be implemented and they are for the good of the nation. Every officer who joins the politics would be an example to follow.
Right. Major Dhruv Katoch, bringing you back into the conversation, so I'd just like to understand from you then what do you think are the possible apprehensions that people have when someone from the armed forces does decide to join politics? Because as we've been discussing, politics has in fact seen people from various backgrounds. Nobody takes an exam to be a politician per se. Politicians are ultimately people who come from various walks of life, people who've served in different fields and sectors for 10, 15 years, 20 years of their lives, then decide to make that jump. You've seen actors, industrialists, so many other voices and faces joining politics. So why do you think that there comes this apprehension as far as the armed forces or a army veteran joining politics is concerned?
Devika, I think this has something to do with, the fear that the military may take over. I don't know, this fear, as far as I'm concerned, is totally unfounded. Having served for a very long time in the Indian Army, there's no way in which the armed forces will ever take over the country. It won't happen. The second thing is, when people talk of politicization of the armed forces, they really don't understand what the term means. If one of the generals is talking to a politician, or having, a cup of tea or something with him, there is straight away the apprehension, okay, the army or the air force or somebody is getting politicized. But, the real meaning of politicization of the armed forces is that the armed forces interfere in the election process to get a particular result. Now, there is no way that is going to happen in the Indian Army, Navy or the Air Force. You are totally outside that ambit. And even if veterans start getting into into politics in a larger way, that means more and more parties start seeking their support and seeking the input from them as part of the political process. It still won't matter, because the people in uniform will never influence the polity as to which way to vote. If I'm a commanding officer, I'm not going to tell my men, you vote for party A or party B or party C, or take positive measures in favor of any party. That won't happen. And because that won't happen, the armed forces are never going to be politicized. So this apprehension, I think, as I made in my opening statement, I think it goes back to 1947. You have seen what happened in Pakistan. You have seen what is happening in Myanmar today. We've got the example of China also. Where while China is a communist country and controls the military, but the military is still a very powerful instrument within the state. In India, we have got multiple institutions. The armed forces are but one institution which is there to maintain the unity and integrity of the state.
Right.
And I don't see any violation in that. My personal take is, I hope more and more political parties induct veterans into the polity. So then, if we have got enough people in the Congress and in the BJP and in other parties also, then the debate, the way General Sehgal is talking about on various issues which will take place in Parliament, I think those debates will be better informed, because the people to talk about those issues will be those chaps who have been through the ground.
Yes.
So if you have brigadiers and generals who have actually served on the border, who know how weak the infrastructure is, now they're in the decision making, they're in the polity. They can say, listen, we have been there. It doesn't work this way. This is the way we need to go. Okay. And I think those voices will be heard. I think it's important that the military personnel should be inducted more and more into the political process.
I have last few minutes left. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, coming back to you. As I mentioned, the former Air Chief also said that some of his best years in the army were in fact under the BJP leadership, and therefore he's grateful to accept his candidature as part of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Does that somewhere perhaps come across as an endorsement then of the BJP by a person who is highly trusted and valued by the nation?
This question is like this, if I speak the truth, I'm doomed. If I don't, I'm doomed.
Right.
It is for everyone to even understand. You were the 10th largest economy 10 years back. You were amongst the fragile five. Today, we are hunting to go to the number 3rd position. So where is that even a question? You ask me, I'm going to give you the same answer. What is the option that this country has? You can probably bring a comedian like Zelensky and take India the Ukraine way.
Right.
Is this what this country wants? If you think that all the problem in this world can be sorted out by one legislation or one day by one man, it's not going to happen. It's work in progress. What Prime Minister Modi has done in the last 10 years is unprecedented in the history of India for the last 1,000 years. I have said this time and again. You may call me whatever names you want, but that is the unfortunate truth that I am aligned to, or that is what I believe in. People can talk whatever they want. Their problems will never be solved. We cannot solve the problems of those crybabies. But then the reality is there for all of us to see, and then there is nothing much to look beyond. So if anybody has commented this, and that too at the chair of being the chief of the Indian Air Force, wherein we have done some tremendous efforts like going into Balakot and strike. When is the last time that the political leadership had the spine to even allow us to do that? In 1971, there was a curb. In the Kargil war, the Air Force was told not to, venture deep into Pakistan because there could be a fear of getting escalated into the nuclear threshold. When the 26/11 strikes happened, when hundreds of my countrymen were butchered in the streets of Mumbai, the people in power those days were just changing and doing makeup kits just in front of the Taj at the gateway. That is the kind of leadership that you had. Now, if there is a leader who led me and who very astutely has come and told that were the best days of his life in power, then how do we even debate it? How do we even question it? That is the truth.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to leave the last word with Major Mohammad Ali Shah. Major Shah, I just want to understand from you, does the entrance of people with virtue, dignity, discipline, hard work, all of those traits in politics, in fact, help change somewhere the image of political leaders and perhaps also of political campaigns? Because for a large part, a lot of people feel that those who enter politics from really corrupt backgrounds, they're people with a lot of money, that to enter public, even though it's called public service, but politics as a profession, being a politician, continues to be a rather tainted job. It is believed that, this will require a lot of money. You have to be from a very rich family. It takes 30 crore rupees to run a political campaign in India, and otherwise you can't win. So do you feel that somewhere this could perhaps push people to also then revise their understanding of what a politician should be and what are the traits that we should look for when we're voting next time?
Very good question, Devika. As I said previously, the society will not change unless and until we change our own selves. And yes, earlier there was an impression that unpad, jahil, gawar log hi politics mein aate hain. Earlier, that was a bhram, that was an illusion. But thankfully now that is being broken now. We are having very cultured people. In fact, what you mentioned, the qualities being disciplined, honest, integrity, hard work. That is, like, I'll give you a small example of another great politician who came from a boarding school, who was from a defense background, a Fauji's daughter, Fauji's sister, and she is an educated, a cultured, a sophisticated politician from South Kolkata. She's standing up from, I will not name any party over here, I'll just say her name is Sarah Shah Halim. So the very fact is, she is there because she had that background, Fauji upbringing. She has the good know-how about things. Similarly, I think we've had the General V.K. Singh, the Colonel Rathore. We've had even activists for that matter. Anna Hazare, the famous activist, was in the army at one time. He was a driver in the army. He was a Jawan. And in the year 1965, Indo-Pak War, he fought very bravely at that time. So we've had the best of leadership from the armed forces. And so most certainly, I see no harm at all when Faujis come forward and take on the leadership roles. And because it is actually required, our country actually needs that kind of a solid leadership, in fact. So yes,
Okay.
Devika, I see no harm in that at all.
All right. I thank all of our guests, experts, panelists for joining us to take this very interesting conversation forward. Like I said, the entry of the former Chief R.K.S. Bhaduria into the BJP has opened up a lot of questions, but it's for us to now sit and really think whether we want our political leaders to have the traits of our veterans or not.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.